Welcome to our few moments on the Parsha. This Shabbos we have the privilege of reading Parshas Miketz. And of course, Miketz means at the end of 2 years when Yosef finally comes to Paro, and Paro has his dreams about the 7 fat cows and the 7 skinny cows and the 7 fat stalks and the 7 thin stalks. And the dream is a real conundrum for Paro, and he needs someone to interpret it. And Yosef is taken out of the pit. He's washed up, he's cleaned up, he looks great. He comes before Paro, he interprets the dreams, as he says that the pisronos, the explanations or the way to determine the meaning of the dreams, that belongs le'elokimhu. Haloha pisronos elokimhu. Bilo adai, it's not from me. Elokim yana es shalom Paro. Hashem, he is the one who can ease the peace of Paro when he interprets the dreams. It's not going to be me. It comes from Hashem. And Yosef goes and interprets the dreams. When he finishes interpreting him, and Paro sees that he's right on the mark, and Yosef is the only one, it seems, who can solve the problem that's going to come with the famine, the pasuk says, "Vayomer Paro el avodav." Paro says to his servants, "Hanimtza kozeh ish asher ruach elokim bo." Hanimtza kozeh. Can you find like this a person whose ruach elokim bo has the spirit of God in him? Why was he so amazed at it? Well, there are many meanings, of course. Perhaps he didn't expect to have this, as the Saramashkim describe him, Nar Evet Ivri, a servant boy, and so on. But there are many other ways to look at this. In fact, Reb Simcha Bonim from Pshischa teaches us a fascinating insight into what we can learn from this statement of Paro. Hanimtza kozeh, do you find people looking like this, asher ruach elokim bo, that have the Spirit of God in him? You know, I suppose the Egyptian clerics had a certain garb that they looked in order to be considered a man of God. And I suppose if you'll go in the world at large, you'll find in general that there are certain clerical garbs that people wear. But here's this Yosef, this young Jewish boy, so to speak, who's only about 19 years old at this point, maybe 20, and he certainly doesn't look like a clergyman. Nevertheless, he says, Hanimtza kozeh ruach elokim bo. Is there such a thing to be found that someone who looks like this should have the Spirit of God? You know, one of the things that we tend to do is judge people by the way they dress or they look. And we sometimes think that in the Torah community, in order to be a God-fearing person, a deep observer of the mitzvahs, you have to have a certain look. Not so. Hanimtza kozeh ish asher ruach elokim bo applies across the board. We have many, many God-fearing people amongst the Jewish people who don't have the exact same look as what we would consider to be a clerical garb. Perhaps he's wearing a plain suit. Perhaps he's not wearing fancy rabbinical garb. But at the same time, you should know that amongst Klal Yisrael, even amongst the world at large at times, there can be found ish asher ruach elokim bo, God-fearing people in the world. Yosef is the one that teaches us that even though he was extremely well-groomed and dressed in terms of coming to the king Paro, but didn't look at all like an Egyptian cleric, Paro himself recognized this person has ruach elokim in him. When we see people, we should realize that every single one of us has the ability to have the ruach elokim in us. Doesn't matter what you look on the outside. Of course, if the outside reflects what's really inside, that's great. But if the outside's just a show, that would not be acceptable. And certainly, if you think that someone doesn't have that outer look and they can't have ruach elokim, it's not so. Hanimtza kazeh ish asher ruach elokim bo, said Paro. But Reb Simcha Banim from Pshiska reminds us that everyone can have in them the depth of God-fearing quality and the Spirit of God pervading their neshama. And that is a powerful lesson. Even a small little menorah has in it the lights. There's something unique of the Ruach Elokim in a little jar of oil that lights up the Chanukah miracle. And that is Parshas Miketz. And that is what teaches us about the greatness of Klal Yisrael and the spiritual light that pervades every Jew that comes along with the light of the menorah. Have a wonderful Shabbos, a wonderful Shabbos Chanukah, wonderful Shabbos Rosh Chodesh, 3 Sifrei Torah this week. Wow, what a beautiful, beautiful honor for Klal Yisrael to read from 3 different Sifrei Torah. Have Shabbat Shalom U'Mevarach, a Chodesh Tov, and Chag HaUrim Sameach.